All right, Mike, welcome to our live stream session here. It's such a pleasure to have you here on this recorded session. I'd love to give you the chance to introduce yourself and Energy Harbor. We've been working together for maybe close to a year now, and it's been such a pleasure on my side here and on Eos part too. But I know you've been on the solar sector and doing great stuff there for many years now. So give us a chance to get to know a little better you and Energy Harbor and all
Yeah,
you do as part of your great work.
absolutely. So Energy Harbor, in and of itself, we're a younger company. The company itself is only about 2 years old. I've been in the solar industry since 2008, as has my other partner, Jorge. And we are three owners, myself, Jorge Suarez, and Vanessa Gonzalez. She's the solar newbie. She's been in the industry about 3 years, but combined, we have well over 30 years of experience. That all being said, we started off here in Florida, our own company about 2 years ago, mainly because we were tired of the work that we were seeing from other companies that we had worked for in the past, and we wanted to do things ethically and we wanted to do things correctly. So that's where we are. I would say we're still what you would consider a small to mid-sized company. We're in the process of hopefully expanding into other markets this year. But besides doing solar now, we were also into roofing. We also do HVAC insulation, every type of basically home improvement that is energy efficiency related is where we're branching off into now.
Right. So you have this operation where you operate very well on the technical aspect of the contractor business, of course, on the solar part as well. Now, you have a network of sales organizations and big sales team pushing your sales. How's that structured on your part there under Energy Harbor? How do you attend to your partners' needs, or how many of those folks are within the company? How do you structure your sales team versus your technical team, if you will?
Yeah, so basically our sales operation, the majority of them are outside sales organizations, as you said, and they all basically report either directly or indirectly to myself and the other two partners in the business. And so basically what happens is, they will manage their external teams, and then we will have a liaison to help make sure they're in compliance with what not only you need, but with what we need. Gosh, I can't speak with what we need, excuse me. And then we have our operations department in here, which pretty much from the handoff of the packages being sold, take over the nitty gritty of permitting and making sure that we're legally compliant with everything that way. There are some challenges with that because not every sales organization is always on the same page with us, and we have to kind of steer them back down the path, so to speak. So those are the complications of working with outside entities. You don't exactly know what they're 100% telling people, and that's why we have our internal checks and balances to go back and call the customers and make sure that everything is the way it's supposed to be, and they understood exactly. If that's the question you're asking, I'm hoping that's
No, and I'm just curious. Yeah, just curious how many people are under you and under your partners that are working within the
as far
structure, right?
Internal or external?
Both, yeah, both.
So internally, we have about 5 people in the office here internally. Externally, with all the external salesmen, there's probably about 40 to 50 external salesmen running around, not only from the 2 or 3 that we have that are our own, but through the other sales organizations that are out there.
Wow. So, there are a lot of people working under you or with you to push these sales and push these projects out there. So, big opportunity for expansion. And I'm guessing here, since you're a big reference, you keep getting contacts for people that want to work with you. How you select your best partners here for the sales teams and the sales organizations, or how you filter them whenever they want to work with you?
Yeah, so basically we work a lot on word of mouth and referrals. So my background is I actually came very similar to you. I was from the financial end. I worked for a solar financing company, and I developed a deep Rolodex, for lack of, gosh, now I'm dating myself, Rolodex of names from people that I've worked with in the past. And I started with them. And then once they get like word of mouth, they like the work that we do, and we go forth from there. And then, they'll bring people to me, and then we'll sit down, interview them, make sure that we're the right fit. And honestly, we have had people that are not the right fit. people that don't necessarily believe with our philosophy, and it's not worth their headache, not worth my headache, so we just move on.
Yeah, being on the solar sector for 30 years now, or in the industry in general, you know that it's all about quality, right? I'm sure your clients and customers from back then, or, maybe a few years back, are still coming back, happy if they are, then referring all these different projects, or even looking for now new solutions, right? Like batteries and maybe charging stations and things like that for their EVs. So, in terms of generating these sales, you'd say that most of your sales then are done through those referrals and having that very positive background then.
Yeah, at least with us trying to get sales organizations into us. I mean, there's definitely a big paradigm shift in the industry. I think the days of just, hey, everyone wants to jump on the solar bandwagon because it's the new thing in town are done. But what there is all these other sectors combined into it with the energy efficiencies, insulation, windows. We don't do windows ourselves yet, but roofs, so forth and so on. As you mentioned, EV charging stations. They're opening all new avenues of revenue and clientele base. And what we're finding is that one avenue sometimes will bring the other one in. So, maybe solar is going to bring somebody a roof, or roof will bring somebody into the solar space, or someone wants batteries, and then you can pivot that, hey, you need batteries and maybe you need some insulation, your HVAC is bad. And we're trying as a company at any rate to keep a customer for life, as opposed to just let me get some solar on your roof and move on to the next, which is what most solar companies I think are doing. And if they don't adapt to that, they're not going to survive.
Yeah, you feel like that's a big differentiator today, but it's going to be critical in the near future for companies to be able to offer more than just solar, right?
Exactly. We're
Nice.
vertically integrated.
Wow. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Now, I think the next challenge then becomes, of course, approaching the customer, understanding their needs. And there might be more than one. You're pitching the solar system. Now you have all these different potential needs. Sometimes you have to fix something to get the solar in place, right?
Correct.
And we've seen
Yeah.
that before.
Yeah.
Now, how do you generate a proposal that's a winning proposal for a customer, right? And how do you take that information that they're giving you in terms of their needs, and how do you prepare that, or is that done entirely by your sales teams and organizations? Is that something that's under their responsibility, or you're watching that very carefully?
It's a combination of both. By and large, that responsibility, because we're using outside sales teams, is put on them, but they are doing it through our proposal tool software. And so what we're trying to balance all the time in the solar industry as a company is, okay, I know the customer wants this, right? And this may be unattainable because of various factors you already mentioned. So how do we give them a package deal in that situation that's going to give them most of everything they want and still leave them happy? So like the proposal tool, we use Aurora for our proposal tools. It's extremely accurate. We can get very accurate data, right? Shading and everything right through the tool. And I think proposal tools in general in solar are getting better anyway. But we've found it gives us the most accurate prediction of what their current usage is, what the solar is going to be able to produce, as well as figuring out folding in the other products. So that is definitely the challenge. We have to have the sales reps cross-trained on everything from solar to roofing to HVAC to insulation, etc., in order to be able to present the right value proposition to the homeowner. So that's definitely our challenge.
You have a big onboarding process then with all these new partners that you bring in to push sales for you, because you want to get them prepared to use these softwares and be able to build the right solution to the customer then. Is that
Exactly.
right? Is that something that you do?
Yeah, it is. And in fact, it's funny. We're in the process right now of creating a new sales training for everybody because we have so many different products. So now it's probably going to take us a better part of another 3 weeks to a month to finish it. But we're just diving into it as we speak. That's what I was doing actually before the call here.
Nice. So that's something very live then for you. And I think content and just knowledge is, the more you get, there's always something more to learn, right? There's always something more to add, and there's always something new to. Now for us here is I think the new approach is to be able to build and actually record content such as this. And the idea being that we can share best practices, right? So we're launching this series of interviews here, and you are one of our first interviewers here, or guests. Now, I guess what I want to try to get to is within the entire framework that we just built here, in terms of getting sales teams out there, preparing them, educating them. What is the role of financing into this process, and how much is how important financing is today for you within your sales strategy and the ability to sell, right? Because what we hear and what we get back sometimes from you and from companies such as Energy Harbor is, it seems like financing is the big obstacle to overcome,
I
right?
mean,
How hard it is to get good financing these days.
it is. It's paramount to the business. Like, so let's face it, solar's a big ticket item, right? Roofing is a big ticket item. Most people don't have that type of cash laying around and just say, yeah, let me write you a check for $20,000 to $50,000, whatever the project is. So getting them financed is definitely paramount. It's the only thing that allows companies such as myself to have the cash flow that they need to be able to continue to do business, and it also allows the homeowners the relief of, like, well, especially with your product, where they don't have to make a payment for years. Takes some of the pressure off of them. How am I going to afford to pay for this if it's something that they need to have done? But as far as I think everyone is accustomed to financing things now. To your point, though, it is difficult to find good finance partners. People that don't change the rules suddenly in the middle of the process. We've had that happen twice, where the rules were this, and then in the middle of the construction project, they changed the parameters of what their rules were, and it just created havoc for us and the way we're accustomed to working. But I don't think, especially we're in a cashless, or rapidly approaching a cashless society. If you don't have financing, then you're going to get gobbled up. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, when you say majority of folks that are looking for your solutions don't have the cash set aside for this, what's the percentage that we're talking about here in terms of financed projects and deals here? Is it the majority of them are financed? Is it
I
up
would
to
say
80 or
for me, 98% of my jobs are financed.
98?
Yeah,
Wow, so pretty much all of them then.
pretty much all of them. Yeah, and honestly, that's also because of the product and the way it's positioned to sell. But most of the biggest hurdle you would come to without financing was when you would go and you say, "Oh, we have this project, we want to do it. We have a roof, we have HVAC or whatever," and you have to ask the person, "Great, so I need X amount of dollars up front for a deposit. I need X amount of dollars when I come to complete the project, and they're balanced maybe upon inspection." And then you're, as a company, you're forced chasing your money constantly. This way, with the financing, it's simpler. Everyone understands it. People are accustomed to it, and they're looking for it now.
And understanding who the customer is, and of course, if they're eligible for the type of financing that you offer, or the many types of financing options you have, probably. Now, how important it is to prepare beforehand, before going out and trying to acquire that customer, or paying them a visit, because of course it costs money to move from one place to the other, and being there for the customer and helping answer any questions. Now, how prepared does your sales team, does all these sales organizations have to be to go out there? And in terms of financing specifically, do they usually take already a pitch ready to for the customer, or do they look at financing on later stages of the sale? Is it something that needs to be right there available for the customer, or is it something that can happen later?
No, generally speaking, they want it available to the customer right then and there. So, like, you're not wrong. I have multiple financing options. I have about 7 or 8 under my auspices here. Different strokes for different folks. So not everybody fits in the same box. People that have exemplary A+ credit are better with this company. People that have less than stellar credit are better with another company. And then we have people that don't want to have any quote unquote debt, or don't want to take a loan. So we have leasing options for them. So we try to keep them prepared, the sales reps prepared at any rate, for every scenario, and say, yeah, I have a solution for it, because that's really what we are. The way our approach to this is we're a solutions oriented company, right? We'll try and find a solution for you. If you want A, B, or C done. If we can do it, we're going to figure out a way to make it happen for you. But I like to tell people, if we can't figure out how to do it, it can't be done. That's kind of our
Yeah.
company philosophy. So we like that different. We like to have those options for everybody. You know.
For sure. And I'm sure you have many different profiles of customers in Florida. I'm guessing, the population is very diverse and there's so many different needs, right? Now, I know that Energy Harbor is experiencing a rapid expansion here. You guys are growing and you're feeling the push on the market. Now, in terms of the obstacles that you're facing, or, I guess the obstacles on the way of this growth, what are the top three ones, and where is financing within, these top obstacles? Is it the major obstacle? Is it something that's lower down your priority list of obstacles to overcome?
No, financing's in the top three, right, without a doubt. Because you've got, the what we call it, everyone uses this cliche, the solar coaster, right? But the big thing is that equipment manufacturers and who's offering what, and the pricing, and now we're with the upcoming tariffs that are going to be imposed on some of the equipment that we're using. So everyone in the solar industry constantly has to shift based on what the market is predicting. As far as equipment procurement, et cetera. The bigger issue is with the financing, because, as you well know, every time the Fed does a rate increase or decrease, it affects the financing options one way or the other. And keeping that balance of where you have to be profitable versus what the customer is able to afford to make in a monthly payment is a difficult transition to balance out. And so financing is always has been, in the top three difficulties of this industry.
Right. So the salesperson, within your sales team, they must be ready to pitch this solution or these solutions that you're taking to your customers with the right product fit, with the right product mix, if you will, with maybe different types of products within the same proposal, with the right financing option. And of course, the winning pitch. Sometimes price is not the only factor, right? How do you position the price in terms of your competition, and how do you see your competition? What is it like today in the marketplace in terms of competitiveness out there? You said the market has changed significantly, so I'm guessing the ones that have made so far and so long into the industry have done things differently than the ones that have not, right?
Yeah, so like to sort of answer that, how I look at my competition, I'm like, look, we look at it, we stand by our work, right? We happen to think that we do impeccable work. We don't take shortcuts, right? We do everything 100% by the book, legitimate, permitted, inspected properly. All of our customers get to PTO quickly from the utility, which I can't say that about a lot of our competitors. A lot of them will just, and I kind of let our work speak for itself. As far as like price, yeah, there is a definite price war going on right now, and it's sort of a race to the bottom, right? But that's why I think you're seeing some of these larger giants topple, because nobody can sustain these low prices. But that's where I think financing can come in, because you could price things now back at a more realistic price for the contractor, and as long as you can lock them into a monthly payment that makes sense for everybody, then it's paramount to making the sale. But to answer your question, yeah, the competition is brutal. I mean, it's brutal. I don't know how many. I think the last time I checked, there were several hundred, if not, was it 450 solar companies left in Florida? That's just Florida.
So from what you're saying, then it's a really competitive market still, and even though you have all that work to show for, you still have to gain those customers and make sure they trust you, right? Be able to build that trust-based relationship. Correct. So that they can go with your solution. And most times you don't want to be that lowest price company, right? That you don't want to be the lowest price available out there. You want to be the right price, right? The right combination of value that you're offering.
Exactly.
So one thing that I'd like to bring on here is the idea of differentiation. Then I think you have to position yourself different than your competition, right? So in terms of things that you could list that differentiate Energy Harbor today, in terms of importance. You've said many things here throughout the interview, but now in a more organized manner, what
Sure.
would be your top 3 or 5 items that you could say that
I'm,
differentiate you
I think that that's
from the customer's perspective, right?
Yeah. So from a customer's perspective, it would be this. Number one is I've said this twice already, but it's the quality of our work. Like we treat everybody's home as if it were our own. We even sometimes that means telling the customer they can't have exactly what they want because it's not maybe either up to code or won't be safe or so forth and so on. But we treat everyone's home like it was our own. We hold the customer's hand through the process from beginning to end. A lot of times, solar companies will come in or any construction company. And in fact, I'm experiencing this right now with a construction project that's not solar related, where it's impossible to get in touch with your contractors. And so we have, our onboarding operations team, customer service team, and we keep people informed all the way through the process. We take care of the customers after installation. So they, for lack of a better word, we treat them sort of like family. You come to us, you have a problem, we're always going to be there. We're always going to answer the phone. We're always going to send somebody out to help as fast as we can. And then again, this goes back to our philosophy. Like that is the biggest thing I think that differentiates us. And we're an ethical company. We're not going to sell you something just for the sake of selling it. If you don't really need it, we're going to say, this is not the issue. You don't really need this. And
Right.
And I think that's kind of what sets us apart in this industry, versus some others I've seen.
All right, and you mentioned this from the start. You started with this phrase, if you will, with this sentence about being an ethical business. Now that certainly sets you apart, miles away from folks that are not ethical, right? But in terms of gaining a customer and acquiring that opportunity, uh, how do you show the customer what's an ethical proposal? What's something that's done honestly in an honest manner
Yeah.
versus what's not? How do you show that? And I know in financing, there are a lot of things that could be twisted, right, if you will, and things that are not necessarily what the salesperson is showing the customer. But in terms of what you do in Energy Harbor, how you show that that you're an ethical company versus
Yeah.
others out there.
Yeah. So great case in point, right? So let's just say you're dealing with, let's deal with elderly people. There are a lot of elderly people here in Florida. So a lot of times they'll go to a house, they'll spoken to a competitor, for example, and they're showing them, what their payments are going to be. And they either have misconstrued or not explained how a tax credit works and because a person's retired or maybe doesn't receive income anymore, they're not going to be eligible for that tax credit portion, right? So then showing them, look, we have other options for you, for example, that don't include that, or walking away from the sale and saying, you know what, this is not the right fit for you because of your financial situation. But what we find happens in that situation is they will refer us to a friend, neighbor, relative, etc., because we have not tried to take them down the wrong path. We were upfront, forthright, and honest about what we can and can't do for them, and ultimately that results in more business for our company.
Nice. So you just take care of them and you show that you care about them, right, on the long run here, even if that means just not trying to make that sale, or like you said, walking away from it just because that you feel like that's not right. Now, how do you train a salesperson to do that and fulfill that expectation with the intensity and the anxiety that your sales team and every sales team has to close a
Yeah,
deal
well, I
like
mean,
that?
that's a little bit more difficult, but part of our training process is the whole first day of our training process is all about ethical selling, right? And explaining like what you could really let's talk about the dark side of solar and financing and all that. You could really hurt somebody, right, by selling them a product that they think they're on a budget. You say, yeah, because of the way solar financing works, you have that low price up front. 18 months later, it will readjust if you can't put the tax credit back into it. And now you're taking somebody who's coming to you and saying, hey, I have a budget. and I can only afford X, and I'm going to come in and give you a price which is lower than what you could afford, what you were hoping. And but then if you misguide them 18 months later, they're now paying double what they were expecting to pay. So putting people through that process in our sales training and saying, look at this and look at where you're going to do this person's financing just to make a commission, when there are other ways to get them into what they want without effectively hurting them, is one of the big paramount things that we go through. It's the very first day of our sales training. We go through that.
Right.
So, and it is hard. It is hard to get a sales rep to say no, right? But the whole thing is, like I said, hopefully they're going to get other referrals out of it from another friend, family, neighbor, and then hopefully, because to me, reputation is everything, right?
Yeah, and it is in the business, right? Because like you said, you see these big companies nowadays just failing entirely, right? And just going under. And I guess that opens up a space for other companies, but mostly for the ones that are doing things right and that are, looking at this from a long-term perspective and really building the company to
And it's more
exist in
difficult.
10, 20 years from now, right?
Yeah, and it's more difficult to do things the right way. I mean, your growth is a lot slower than if you were not doing things ethically, right? You just but case in point, you could look at umpteen solar companies that have failed, that have all done things the other way, and the result is they're out of business. And the person that
Right,
went to get
right.
hurt there is the homeowner, because now they have nobody to service their system, so forth and so on.
And you feel like within your expectations and within the perspective that you have, the idea that you're okay with growing a little slower just to be able to take care of every customer. Now, what are your expectations moving forward in terms of growth, in terms of volume, how you see Energy Harbor expanding into other territories, like you said, maybe other states? How do you see that growth process, and what are your expectations on the market opportunities? Because we see these big pushes from government programs and things like that, giving incentives. Now we know that that depends on other aspects, not your business
Yeah.
specifically, but how do you see yourself, let's say in 1 year from now, in 5 years from now, in 10 years from now, right?
Yeah, well, we have a specific growth trajectory in mind. We don't want to get obviously too big that we're going to implode, but we're also looking at expanding into other states that have better incentives than they do here. Because one of the things that makes it very difficult to operate in the state of Florida is there are no incentives other than the tax credit. But the utilities here seem to be pushing back heavily against solar. And then there are other states, let's just say like Texas, which is completely like the Wild West of everything out there, where the people are really embracing solar as a whole. Up in, let's say, like the Washington D.C., Virginia area, where they have mandates that they want to have so much infrastructure being from alternative sources by a certain date, that the state is behind the push for solar energy, for example. Those states are and I'm sure you're going to see that there's going to be a big influx. I'm not like a solar guru or anything like that, but it's just common sense as to follow that. And we're looking at probably adding one state a year. So we're probably by Q1 of next year, we're just deciding which state we're going to push into, if it's going to be Texas or if it's going to be Virginia. And then once we get that market established, then we'll go into another. I don't want to get too big. I mean,
Yeah, and
I should
it
make some
makes me
money,
really happy to learn that you're considering Texas, because that Eos is working out of Texas. We're based in Houston, so of course,
Yeah.
huge market, huge opportunity. But a company such as Energy Harbor would definitely do so well in Texas as well. And from a personal standpoint here, I'd be more than glad to refer any sales person or sales teams and organizations back to Energy Harbor to work with you, work under you there, because I know how you work, and I know that all the things that you're saying here are really in practicality and in truth, in all manners. So I'd be more than happy to see you out there playing a role in all these other states, and mostly Texas, that we know by heart here, that is just a
And
major market and a really important one.
And then just to answer the second part, because I forgot to answer that, was where I see this going. I really think that the future of this whole renewable sector is all about storage. Storage right now, it's all about net metering and getting as much glass on the roof as possible. But storage is where it's going to be at, because all these net metering policies are going to change, and if you don't have batteries, right, then you're not going to be effectively able to reap the financial benefits that people are from it. But it's also going to give the industry a whole second look of all these customers out there that have already been installed without batteries. Now you have an opportunity to go back and resell. And if you're
Right.
just smacking glass on the roof and forgetting about the customer, they're never going to buy anything else from you.
Right, for sure. And now you have all these customers on your track record that they can go back to and sell these batteries. Now, I'm glad you brought that up. How what's the percentage of your sales today that includes battery systems versus, what does that represent in terms of sales
Well,
for you here today?
yeah, I mean, it used to be zero. Nobody would put batteries, and then we're still not very high. I want to say maybe between 5 and 7% of homes have batteries in it. But it is definitely becoming an ask now, where previously it was you would never get asked, and the battery technology has changed, and now it's definitely an ask. And we also have clients coming back to us now saying, "Okay, I'm ready to add batteries to what I have." So
Right.
it's
So you have sales that are only battery sales then,
yes,
from clients that already purchased their system.
yeah. And like I
Cool.
said, the prices of the batteries they're coming down. They're actually becoming very affordable. Like 5 years ago, it was just to show off that you had money, you could buy batteries. But now the prices are coming down to reality, and they're also batteries are being more compatible with different systems than they were before. It's making life easier.
I thought folks in down Florida would be looking for batteries because of all these hurricanes coming through now. Is that your major reason why they're looking for batteries, or is it
Oh yeah,
something else entirely?
no, that's definitely why. Like right now, it's because of hurricane preparedness, right? But
Mhm.
I'll use California for example. California changed their net metering policy, and you can't really get solar without having batteries anymore. And I feel that is going to happen everywhere, because let's face it, utility companies are a business, and then as more and more people adopt this, they lose business, and then they have to raise rates on their other customers, and they get unfairly penalized. So there's going to
Mhm.
have to be something done to keep everybody happy. But yeah,
Mhm.
for right now in Florida, it's hurricane preparedness, and I think there might be another one brewing. So I'm anticipating with it. Once that storm passes, I hope it doesn't hit anybody. But then
Yeah.
that's usually when you get your next. Hey, I gotta be prepared for the next one.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people looking for those types of solutions before and after, right? Because that raises all sorts of flags and attention, and people will look for those solutions. And battery is a major solution for that type of problem, or, I guess, challenge, right? In people's lives there. Let me ask you one more question here, Mike. Something that I think is really important for you. We spoke so much about, being ethical and building a reputation. How do you measure your success and the satisfaction that the customer has and shows in terms of the sales and the systems they acquire in the public space? Is it something that you measure by having positive reviews, or something that you measure internally by asking them? And how do you see that opportunity, to show all that good reputation you have on the public space? Or how do you look to show that,
Well,
background that you
I
have
mean,
built?
that's the hard thing, right? Is how to show it, because admittedly, I am not the best with social media, but some of the other people that work with me are largely better with it. Um, what we look for from internal satisfaction standpoint is, hey, how many referrals? Referrals are the key to the lifeblood to everything, right? If people are happy, they're going to refer people to you. If people are not happy, the referrals don't come in and the reviews don't come in. So that's the easiest way for us to gauge, and also by the lack of complaint calls coming in. Right, I'm not going to say
Mhm.
that we're perfect. No company is. It's impossible to be, but we don't really get a lot of customer complaints, which to Jorge's credit, does a great job with the install side and the install crews, and he brings a lot of knowledge, and that's largely up to him. I give both my business partners credit. That's where it comes
There
from.
you go. There you go. Yeah, and all that knowledge that you guys have built and the experience, everything that gives that consistency to it. Now, just to put a number in referral, would that be more than half of your sales coming from referrals, or do you have other large sales origination formats here?
So I wouldn't say it's more than half, right? It's probably a little less than half right now. Our goal as a company to get to 75%. I would love, because referrals, not only are they less expensive for acquisition of a customer, but that helps grow and grow. It's free advertising for your company too. So, and so we're probably right about now, if I'm thinking about the numbers, we're probably about 35% referrals at the moment. Like we want to get it to be.
But you want to get it to 75, then you want to do a big push in referrals to make that your
Yeah.
alternate
And
sales origination mechanism.
And I think ultimately, because we're not that old of a company yet, a lot of the people that we haven't even had their systems for a full operating year. So once
Right.
they go through that full year, they go through that full cycle and say, hey, things are still working the way they're supposed to. We're anticipating the referrals to come in. And the referrals not just necessarily for solar, but for the other aspects of our business.
Right. Now, I see a big opportunity, and of course, it's an ambitious, audacious goal here to have 75% of your business coming from referrals. It gives so much consistency to your business. Now, is there another reason why you want to do that too? Because maybe the other sales channels you have or the other mechanisms that you have to prospect all these customers are getting more expensive? Is it because of that too, or is it just
100%.
because?
So lead acquisition, and we just had a meeting about this Friday. Lead acquisition is becoming so expensive in this space. It's saturated. There's only so many leads to go around, so to speak. There's so many lead companies to go around, and everyone's basically, for lack of a better analogy, chewing on the same hot dog, right? So referrals are the lifeblood, and that's part of, like I said, I keep coming back to this. This is why we've diversified our company, so that we could say, hey, yes, we have referrals, but cross space referrals, right? This solar referral, roofing referral, HVAC referral, insulation, so forth and so on. We do water purification. All these channels cross each other. And that's why we're hoping that in the future we can get the larger referral base, not just necessarily for the one product. And it might not be a realistic goal to say I can get 75% of my business from referrals, but I would like to get it there, because it would definitely, it not only does it make the sales reps' life easier, because hey, you're already happy with us, what we can do, and we're just going to be able to do. They trust you, and like I said earlier, we're trying to gain that customer for life, as opposed to just one and done.
Right.
Can't do that without referrals.
Do you take those best referrals you have and feed it back to your best partners? How does that relationship work in terms of, because you're building the brand, you're building the relationship with the customer. Now you're getting those referrals, but then you have this large network of sellers and representatives. Do you feed it back to them?
We feed it back to them. We look at, so if you're a partner of ours, you're a partner of ours, right? So we're all on the same team. The goals are all the same. But I'm not going to take, a referral that came from company X and give it to company Y over here. So no, that's their customer. They nurtured them. They sold them. And they're ultimately the customer, unless they tell us otherwise, is very comfortable having that same person go back. Right.
Right. Makes sense.
They bought from them the first time. They're going to buy from them again, so to speak.
Now, I anticipate some folks that are starting and want to get into sales probably to, have a look at this content and maybe have access to this chat that we're having here, because there's so much value in it. Now, if I was someone that was just starting out in the solar sector and wanted to be a salesperson, maybe build my own sales organization, how do I start here? And how do I form a relationship with you, in terms of building that partnership, that possibility to grow with Energy Harbor today?
Well, I think we're kind of unique in that space. where if you're a brand new you want to start a solar sales organization, there's two ways. You can come and join us internally, or if you want to do your own thing and be a lone wolf, you can, right? But we will train them if they want to start from the ground up, right? That's the best if you're going through us. If you're going someplace that we don't service and not through us, it'd be the best thing you could do. Number one is educate yourself, right? Don't just sit there and there's so much hype on the internet about, they call them the solar bros, right? Oh, make $20,000, all drive Maseratis, and good for them. I mean, if that's the reality, and they're making that much money, good for them. The biggest thing that's going to make their lives easier is to educate themselves on solar, educate themselves on the government processes, right? And also what the incentives are in various states and markets. Learn that, and then learn how the whole process of forget the sales process right now, the installation to completion and how the whole process works, so that they have an idea when they go into a house of that gives their base jumping off. But they also shouldn't vomit solar on people. That's what I always tell people, right? You need to go in and say, hey, I understand the process. I have the answer to all these questions, but I'm really just here to consult with you and figure out the easiest route to go about this. And also, like I keep saying, it comes back to it. Have that look, your house is covered by trees. This is not a good fit for you. This is not a good idea. But that drives me crazy. I'm off on a tangent here, but that drives me nuts when I go, because we'll do service work and we'll go and there's a giant oak tree covering this guy's house. Like, well, the reason your system doesn't work is because the sun can't hit it. And whoever sold you this, did you dirty.
Yeah.
But to get started, it's really easy to get started. Read the sales books, learn about, and there are plenty of organizations that out there too that will bring you on as a sales rep, and that's probably the best way to do it. Join an organization like us. We can train you. You'll learn exactly what the processes are. You'll learn what the buying, what you should be selling versus what other people are selling, and then you can go out and create your own.
Yeah.
But it is
Nice.
not an easy business. Everyone thinks it is. It is not an easy business.
Well, it's not something that's gonna turn up in the next day, right? It's not overnight
Nope.
success or anything like that.
There is a lot of work, especially if you're running a sales organization. You got to figure out where to get your leads from, whether you're going to knock doors, whether you're going to buy them. I mean, there's definitely reward to it, but it's not just like hey, I'm going to hang up my shingle tomorrow and start selling solar. There's a lot of legwork that goes in.
Are you always looking for and recruiting good sales persons and sales team? Is that something that you're always open to? Because
Yes.
I'm just gonna refer them back to you here. Say, hey, where do they find you?
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. I'm always looking, right, for good people. Please send them my way, especially, if they're in my state in Florida right now. I might definitely use.
Do they just jump on your website and subscribe there? Is it something that goes through the website, or how do they reach out to you?
We have a web contact form where they could just call the office directly, and you could put a number up there, 813-212-0100, and ask to speak to myself, and I'll happily to talk to anybody about bringing them on.
Yeah, and I know that I hope this content here gets you a few good people out there, because in appreciation of what you're sharing here, in all honesty and openness and transparency, giving all this content and knowledge, sharing with us and sharing with the folks out there that are not only maybe are already working with solar, but also the ones that want to start, like we're just discussing. Mike, I really want to say thank you for all this that you've shared, and all this knowledge and experience, and the perspectives here, all the values too, showing what you're for there at Energy Harbor and what your team is for in terms of building that business in a very ethical manner. Congratulations for all the work you're doing. And, I hope Eos and Energy Harbor can really build on this relationship and partnership for many years to come.
Well, look, thank you again. I look forward to it, and I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, for sure, Mike. We'll talk soon then. And again, it was a big pleasure having you here.
Thank you. Take care.
Yeah, take care.